several reasons. One is that the Islamic faith doesn't really allow for the concept of a civilian in the way that we understand it. There is no innocent person who is a non-Muslim in Islam. In Islamic teaching, in the Quran, and in other teachings of Islam, the non-believers are always people who know that Islam is true, but they still set against it. There's no idea of somebody who just in good conscience believes that Islam is not true. This is something that's not even available as a concept. And so the unbelievers are always evil. And then the Quran promises that if you kill and are killed for Allah, it's chapter 9, verse 111, then you're guaranteed paradise. And so these young men, they go and blow themselves up in a crowd of unbelievers, or like the 9/11 hijackers, they fly the plane into the building. They know they're killing unbelievers, which is something that is sanctioned by the Quran, and they know that they'll be getting paradise because they're promised that if they kill unbelievers and are killed in the process, then they will be taken into paradise as martyrs.
Okay, once again, Mr. Spencer, there is a big thing here. You oppose the mosque, and the same Mrs. Geller did the same. What's your thought, what's your vision behind opposing the mosque?
The mosque is going to be understood as a victory mosque, as a triumphal mosque, all over the Islamic world. This is simply a matter of historical precedent. This is a matter of the historical record. There are thousands, literally thousands, of victory mosques all over the Islamic world. Mosques that were built on the cherished sites of conquered peoples, the Jewish temple where the Dome of the Rock is, or mosques that were converted from churches or synagogues or Hindu temples, like the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, and many others, thousands all around the Islamic world, all across Africa and the Middle East into India. There are mosques that are on the sites of churches, synagogues, or Hindu temples, or converted from churches, synagogues, or Hindu temples, and done so as a sign of the victory of Islam in that particular place. Now, how many mosques at the same time, when they tell us that the mosque on Ground Zero is going to be a mosque that's designed to promote interfaith harmony and cooperation and reconciliation, how many mosques are there like that if you look around the Islamic world? How many mosques are built on the sites of earlier Islamic attacks in order to promote peace and harmony with the group that was attacked? There are no such mosques anywhere in the Islamic world. And so why are we supposed to assume, and we have to assume on pain of being called Islamophobic and bigoted, that this mosque will be understood in this way when no other mosque has ever been understood like that in Islamic history?
All right, Mr. Spencer, I need just to take you to Iran. Ahmadinejad in the United Nations said that America did September 11 to be in the Middle East. How far he was lying, or how far he accused the United States that the United States destroy itself to be in the Middle East?
Well, you know, in the Islamic world, conspiracy theories are very common, probably because the Islamic world, all the governments are authoritarian regimes that work in secret without the knowledge of the people. And so the people start to get used to the idea that most governance is done in secret and by tricks and skullduggery, because that's the kind of thing they're used to. And so it's the same thing in this case. It's absurd because Osama bin Laden himself has admitted to committing the 9/11 attacks, and so has Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and all his other plotters that are on trial or going to be on trial eventually. And so the idea that the U.S. did this is completely fictional, but it fits in with the way the world works as far as somebody like Ahmadinejad understands it. That's probably how he governs Iran.
Again, Mr. Spencer, I studied real estate, and the instructor during the class told us a story about the United Nations, that the United Nations had been built by George Rockefeller, and he donated the building to keep the peace on the world. And if the United Nations didn't do the job that he built the building for, the organization of the building has to go to his inheritance. Do you think, I don't think that the United Nations do well against the minorities around the world. Do you think that the United Nations do well towards the minorities around the world?
No, certainly not. The United Nations really is a disgrace. Ever since the collapse of the Soviet bloc, the United Nations has been, the largest voting bloc of the United Nations has been the Organization of the Islamic Conference. And the Organization of the Islamic Conference is 57 Muslim governments around the world that can essentially do whatever they want in the United Nations. And they have made it into a mouthpiece of anti-Semitism, hatred of Israel, and the denial of the human rights of non-Muslims, because nothing about the violations of human rights under Islam is ever admitted for discussion in the United Nations. And so the United Nations really ought to be shut down, or the United States at very least should withdraw from it.
Okay. Do you think, another more question about the United Nations, do you think that the American intelligence, when they withdraw themselves during the Najat speech, is enough?
No, it's not enough. It's not enough to walk out on just one speech, because Ahmadinejad in that speech may have said some crazy things, but at the same time, the policies of the United Nations in general and the posture of the United Nations in general is something that is anti-American and is giving a forum for the propaganda of the global jihad and the Organization of the Islamic Conference and its campaign to limit free speech and to render us mute and defenseless against the advancing Islamic jihad. And so, that being the case, there is no reason why we should be staying in the United Nations at this point.
Okay, let me stop by Iraq Christian people who been deported from Iraq to the other countries or been forced to be immigrated from Iraq, the own country, because of the violence and persecution against them. Why, in the front of the whole world eyes, why Mr. Obama or the whole world or the V2 people in the United Nations didn't say anything to protect these people? Although they are not armed, they don't have any kind of violence, they are peaceful people. Why the whole world close an eye and let Muslim in Iraq destroy the Christian?
Well, it would seem that the world is really generally indifferent to the persecution of Christians in the Islamic world. The international media has taken the idea that the Islamic people are the victims of all the trouble that the West causes. And so they're not prepared for a story in which the Muslims are the perpetrators and non-Muslims, particularly Christians, are the victims. Because in their worldview, the West, the United States, is a big, giant Christian entity that is causing all the trouble in the world. And it is the Muslims who are suffering. And so they just don't, they simply ignore stories that don't fit this model. And so they leave the Christians in Iraq and the Christians in Egypt and the Christians elsewhere to their fate, because they simply don't care. It doesn't fit the kinds of stories that they want to tell.
All right, Mr. Spencer, we just need to take this great opportunity with you to ask you too many questions. During the last rally, I did interview a Pakistani priest. This priest, he teared and he get out of line when he speaks out about the discrimination from Pakistani government against the minorities, the Christian minorities there. Why the United States is still giving annual aid to this country, although they don't respect the international law and protect the minorities? Why should America respect all the laws, respect all the civil rights, respect all the minorities here, and they ask for more and they don't give little in their countries?